du meine Arbeit für richtig hältst, ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin.
Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about the rise and fall of Nazi Germany, how Adolf Hitler started his political career, how he led the Nazi Party to the top, and how it came to an end with World War II. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments, because we will use your feedback to shape future videos and delve deeper into the topics we've covered here. But this video is just a quick tour to get you started. If you're ready, let's get started. Representing the 20th century's darkest period, Nazi Germany began in 1933 and ended in 1945 under the leadership of Adolf Hitler. Also known as the Third Reich, this period left a deep mark on world history. So how did Hitler get to this point? Adolf was born in Austria in 1889. He had a troubled childhood with his father and all the while dreamed of becoming a painter. He believed that he was born to pursue art and he was only striving for that. When he was 18, he traveled to Vienna with his mother's allowance and applied to the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. He was quite sure that they would accept him. He had infinite confidence in his talent. However, things did not go as he had hoped. The Academy decided that he was not that talented and rejected his application. This was the first breaking moment in Adolf's life. His self-confidence was shattered and he lost his only purpose in life. He then tried to make a living by painting various paintings and selling them in Vienna. He led a lonely and depressed life. When the First World War started, he joined the German army. He was in a volunteer unit, but by then he had gone through a period when he was sure that he had misjudged his life's purpose. He was now sure that he was born to be a soldier. But when the war ended, the Germans were among the defeated and the army was disbanded. Adolf's military adventure ended in disappointment. But he immediately found a new purpose. He settled in Munich and in 1919 joined the right-wing German Workers' Party. If one were to describe the state of the German people in those years, the best word would be chaos. People were filled with an anger that they didn't know where to direct. They were not in bad shape militarily. They had not suffered a major defeat. It was just that their strength was exhausted and the German generals realized that they could not carry on the war much longer and accepted defeat. So the monarchy was overthrown. The Weimar Republic was established and the Treaty of Versailles was signed. The signatories of the Treaty of Versailles on behalf of the Germans were the SPD, the German Social Democrats. This treaty led to Germany losing territory, limiting its military power and paying huge war reparations. Economic collapse and hyperinflation dramatically worsened the living conditions of the German people. In this chaotic environment, interest in radical ideologies grew. Adolf Hitler quickly became the leader of the German Workers' Party. He renamed the party the National Socialist German Workers' Party. The party grew from strength to strength, exploiting the anger of the German people. They began to blame the Jews, the Communists, and the Social Democrats who had signed the Treaty of Versailles for their plight. Thanks to his talent for propaganda and his charismatic leadership, Adolf Hitler continued to win popular support even after his failed coup attempt in 1923. Hitler and his party colleagues attempted a coup d'état to seize control of the state of Bavaria, but failed and were captured. Hitler was inspired by his idol at the time, Benito Mussolini, who had become Prime Minister of Italy after his followers marched on Rome. Unlike Mussolini, however, this move sent Hitler to prison. Nevertheless, he used every stage of his trial as an opportunity to propagandize his ideas. During his 9 months in prison, he wrote the first volume of his famous Mein Kampf. This book was the cornerstone of his ideology and future policies. In 1929, the Great Depression, an economic collapse that affected the whole world, starting with the United States, deepened the troubles in Germany. This increased support for the Nazi Party. Hitler was adept at winning public support through his charismatic leadership. The SA, the paramilitary arm of the Nazis, which was also inspired by Mussolini's black shirts, had the power of the streets in its hands. The SA attacked Jews and communists and attacked those who tried to stop them. They committed acts of violence in the streets and made sure that the name and ideology of the Nazi Party was known to the German people. In the end, all these moves were successful and the Nazi Party emerged as the first party in the elections in 1932. In 1933, President Paul von Hindenburg appointed Hitler as German Chancellor. Less than a month after this appointment, the streets of Berlin were lit up by a great fire that shook Germany. On the night of February 27, 1933, a huge fire broke out in the Reichstag building where the German parliament met. While the building was rendered unusable after the fire, which was recorded as arson, it was a communist with psychological problems named Marinus van der Lubbe who set the fire by his own confession. This fire was Hitler's greatest gift. Using the Reichstag fire as an excuse, Hitler suppressed all opposition in the country and passed the Provisional Authorization Act in March 1933. This law gave Hitler unlimited powers and marked the end of the Weimar Republic. Legislative power was completely in Hitler's hands. All opposition parties were shut down, trade unions were banned, and a police state was established in line with Nazi ideology. Germany was now completely under the control of the Nazi Party. The following year, when President Hindenburg also died, Hitler declared himself Führer. One by one, all his political opponents, communists and progressives, were rounded up, first imprisoned and then sent to concentration camps. With the Nuremberg laws, anti-Semitic policies were quickly put into practice. Nazi Germany's foreign policy was one of aggression, based on violating the Treaty of Versailles and expanding Germany's borders. Hitler knew exactly what he wanted to do. On March 14, 1936, in a speech in Munich, he said, "Neither threats nor warnings will deter me from my course. With the instinctive certainty of a sleepwalker, I am following the path given to me by Providence." His plan was clear. In line with his Lebensraum theory, Hitler believed that Germany should expand eastward. The annexation of Austria in 1938 and the subsequent invasion of Czechoslovakia were the first steps in this plan. On September 1, 1939, Germany's invasion of Poland marked the official start of World War II. The Nazis believed that the Germans were an Aryan race superior to all people in the world. Therefore, they believed they could dominate other nations. So they began to invade countries one by one. Especially in Eastern European countries, the Jewish population was very large. In Poland alone, there were 1,700,000 Jews. But their targets were not only Jews. They wanted complete control over other races and dissidents whom they considered inferior to them. They began to search almost every neighborhood in the occupied countries, house by house, one by one, rounding up and executing Jews, Roma, blacks, dissidents, Catholics, Polish nationalists, in short, anyone they considered inferior to them. These were also their political enemies. These execution squads were the starting point for systematic killings. Domestically, the Nazi regime used intensive propaganda and repression to control every aspect of society. The Ministry of Propaganda, led by Joseph Goebbels, began to spread Nazi ideology in the media, the arts, and education. Organizations such as the Hitler Youth and the Women's Union trained young people and women as individuals loyal to the regime. Especially youth organizations were very effective on children and young people. One of the darkest aspects of the Nazi regime was the systematic genocide of Jews, the Holocaust. Around 6 million Jews were murdered in concentration camps and death camps across Europe. In addition to Jews, Roma, disabled people, political opponents, and other minority groups were targeted. The first solution they found to get rid of these political enemies and the Jews they believed were corrupting their race once and for all was to deport them to Madagascar, an island nation in East Africa. But they thought this would be too difficult, so they started building concentration camps to imprison, force people to work, and eventually kill them. And they called this plan the final solution. They already had the Dachau concentration camp, built in 1933 on the site of an abandoned arms factory in Munich, where they imprisoned political opponents. They built many new concentration and labor camps. Camps like Auschwitz, Treblinka, Sobibor were the scene of the most horrible crimes in human history. Back to the war, with the invasion of Poland, Britain and France declared war on Germany. In the first years, Germany achieved great military successes with its blitzkrieg tactics. France fell rapidly and Germany became a major power in Western Europe. However, Hitler's decision to attack the Soviet Union changed the course of the war. In 1941, the German army advanced into Soviet territory in Operation Barbarossa and met stiff resistance. Winter conditions and Soviet resistance left the German army in a difficult situation. The major defeat at the Battle of Stalingrad in 1943 led to the decline of Nazi Germany on the Eastern Front. The Allied landings at Normandy in 1944 were the decisive blow that brought Germany to its inevitable end. Forced to fight on two fronts, Nazi Germany was being dragged towards a major collapse from within and without. When Soviet troops stormed Berlin in April 1945, the city was also heading towards an inevitable end.
Sein Sowjetzeichen soll vor sich hertragen und wir werden in unserem Zeichen wieder siegen!
As Hitler hid in his bunker, the heart of Nazi Germany, which should never have begun to beat, slowly stopped beating. On April 30th, 1945, with nowhere to run, Hitler committed suicide along with his lover Eva Braun. This man, once at the height of his power, wrote his own end in his own dark world. Berlin was completely captured by the Soviets on May 2nd, and Germany surrendered unconditionally on May 8, 1945. Millions of people lost their lives, cities became uninhabitable, and the world was plunged into a tragedy the likes of which it had never experienced before. I wanted this video to not only tell the story of Hitler's rise and fall, but also to help us understand the profound impact of the Second World War on human history. We had to skim the surface of many issues, but I hope to go deeper in the coming episodes. If you would like to do the same, please share your thoughts in the comments. Together we can illuminate the dark and hazy pages of history. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.